Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this other episode of my podcast. Tonight, I have the honor and the privilege to introduce to you a rising star. This is Dr. Sherman Farahani. Sherman, that I've met for his first day in the program of prosthodontics when I was at NYU, and we've been together since he came out of the program. And so it's almost 12 years and 9 years together in a private practice. Dr. Farhani, or I call him Sherman, was with me when we started founding the New York Dental Smile team, and he's a partner in it. And without any further ado, I want to welcome you to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Sherman, for the listener meeting us or listening to us here on the podcast for the first time. So tell them a little bit about your journey into dentistry. What pulled you to it? Why did you do it?
So, my mom went to dental school, actually. She then switched careers or switched trajectory and did psychology after. Because of that, I've been surrounded by her friends and her influence from an early age, and I guess maybe that set me on that path. And I really kind of realized that this is the right fit for me once I started studying for the DATs. I realized hand-eye coordination, the Canadian DAT had the soap carving. I realized that I'm gifted at it almost. And, it just kind of everything fell into place after that.
Well, I can attest to that being gifted because I see you how obsessive about making your own temporaries. So I admire that.
I try.
When did you feel like during your journey that this is more than a job? Like really, you felt the passion about it. Was it from the soap test that you did?
I mean, I've had many jobs, and they all felt like jobs. Dentistry never felt like a job. A job in dentistry may have felt like a job, but it always was the goal. And, I deviated at one point, almost went down the path of getting a PhD in biochemistry, which, for better or not, I did not. And I'm much happier, I think. You'll never know, or we'll never know. But it's always been the career. I never really considered medicine, never thought it was for me. Dentistry was always it, and it's always been the career.
So biochemistry, why were you so passionate about chemistry? This is the only thing that I hate was chemistry.
Oh, man. It actually, I think I've always taken the hard path. When I entered university, wanted to take sciences, but I wanted to really have quite a resume for dental school. So I picked the hardest one. I went to biochemistry, and shock and awe, I loved it. It just clicked. Organic chemistry, biochemistry, it just clicked from the beginning. Fell in love with it. It consumed me for about 2 years, my third and fourth year in university. And yeah, I loved it. I just didn't really see the lifestyle or the life that I wanted pursuing it.
That's good. That's good. That's impressive, actually. Biochemistry is one of the hardest thing to fall in love and to study.
It's fun. It's fun. Or it was fun, rather. I don't
it's
think
fun.
I remember anything.
That's for you. Yeah. So if you want to think back and say, who influenced you? Who your mentors? I mean, I know your mom influenced you in going to the dental school, but throughout this time, who else other than your mother?
Well, good question. There's too many people to actually name, to be honest. I mean, it's anybody who's been your faculty, anybody who's taught you anything, I think is or anybody who you learn what not to do from, just as valuable. But the biggest mentors would have been my pros mentors. Dr. Choi, Mijin Choi, who was the director at the time. She also became the director, I think, the same year you
One
became
year
director,
before me.
1 year before. And Dr. Leila Jahangiri, those were kind of pivotal characters in the decision to go into pros. And then in pros, tons of names, every single faculty on that floor. The most influential and the one that taught me the most, probably Dr. Igor Gorzan. Wonderful, wonderful clinician.
Yeah, Gorzan is a good human being on top of it.
100%.
That's what I love the most about him. And so you are a prosthodontist. So just for people don't understand, because that word prosthodontics is a little bit tough, is you're a specialist in crowns and bridges, in full reconstruction. Is anything else that you like to describe prosthodontics with it?
So as the word suggests, we make prosthetics. Prosthetics for the mouth. Now, if you go deeper into the specialty, do maxillofacial prosthetics, you get to make parts of the face. Same thing. Well, not quite the same thing, but it's essentially making prosthetics for different parts of the mouth. Missing tissue, missing teeth. It starts, essentially, the foundation is dentures. And from that, anything as complicated as full mouth reconstruction, to an entire new set of teeth on a new jaw, which wouldn't be what I practice, but maxillofacial prosthetics. So all the complicated stuff.
So I want to hold you on the dentures, because a lot of people don't know your passion about dentures.
Yes.
But just let me tell the listeners that if you're not a dentist, probably if anybody hates anything in dentistry is learning how to make dentures and set up the teeth in dentistry for the dentures. So I've never seen somebody that stays hours setting up teeth on dentures like this young man here. So that's why I call him the rising star, because I want you to tell them why do you love that. Because you told me, but I wanted you to say it.
Well, I find it therapeutic. And I think that's maybe because I've learned to love it. Again, probably because of the mentorship, the people who taught me how to do dentures. Dr. Gary Goldstein, the Gary Goldstein, I had the privilege of having him teach me how to do a couple of dentures. And, once you get it, it's not hard. It's just you do it. You do the same routine or a similar routine that you do, and things just work out. And I've always said this, the very foundation of understanding occlusion and how the bite works and how the mouth works is denture occlusion. If you do not understand denture occlusion, chances are you do not understand occlusion in general.
And that's fantastic. And I want to get to another point that you passed through it, is setting up the teeth on the wax rim.
Yes.
That brings it to the most important thing, which is the aesthetics.
100%. And that's also, I think, the very foundation of a smile makeover starts with a tooth setup, where the incisal edges are, where your smile line is, where the occlusal plane is. So it is the very foundation of all things in dentistry, especially in aesthetic dentistry.
Correct.
And reconstructive dentistry. So if you have to at some point have some passion or some interest towards it, if you really understand it, or if you want to do it the right way.
So I want to get to that point, but it's funny, you always find biochemistry, organic chemistry, therapeutic, and then putting dentures is therapeutic, which is commendable, I have to say. So,
like I said, always the hard road. I've always taken the hard road.
So I wanna get to that point about aesthetics and teeth, because I hear sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I go to this dentist because they are aesthetic dentists," and so. What's your take on that? Because you brought up very important point. You went specialty 3 years and learned how the details, the minute details of occlusion and putting up teeth. But yet here you have people saying, I'm going to do a full set of veneers top and bottom, and they are getting the fame for it. So tell me your point on that.
You know, I think every dentist is an aesthetic dentist. I've never heard of an unaesthetic dentist.
Indeed.
So I think what really sets an aesthetic dentist apart, or somebody who claims to specialize in it, who claims to kind of be an expert in it, is two things. One, you have to visualize. The first thing you see in a mouth or what you want to change, you immediately see the change. You see that person with the smile that you envision, and then it's the execution. And, you know, to have that vision and also to execute, you have to understand all of it. You have to understand from the very basics of material property to adhesion to tooth surface to occlusion. And I'm sure there's people who, with or without the vision, can execute something properly. But the real trick is, hard to describe, but I think it's a thing you either got it or you don't when you see it. That you can certainly train for it, have the eye for it. And I do think you don't have to be a prosthodontist. You could be a general dentist and be a great aesthetic dentist or a cosmetic dentist, but it's just a much harder road. It's a road where you make more mistakes and your patients go through a lot more. Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, understanding what you understand through prosthetics, it's a much easier road, especially if you have the vision for it.
That's an interesting question that I have for you. You know, we look at it, we say 10 years ago to now, dentistry have changed. If somebody asked me 28 years from when I started, things have changed. So what do you think define your generation of dentists? Because you've been out there, I mean, including the program, over 12 years. So what do you think defines your generation of dentists?
Tough question.
Wow.
Hard to
like
speak for
challenge, right? Yeah.
hard to speak for an entire generation.
Yeah.
But I think it's the last generation that gets to do the old school analog and then also the new school digital. I don't think, well, maybe a generation after us too. I don't think the analog world is here for much longer, and that's a shame because I think you do have to understand it to understand digital. So I think things are getting a little diluted with the use of digital dentistry at the scale that it's being used, where maybe some of the fundamentals that you learn doing analog dentistry might not be quite there. So I think we're the last generation to know that part.
Indeed, I hear you on that. So basically, what you're saying is probably the younger and younger generation are never going to appreciate fully the beauty of analog and where we started to where we are today.
Well, I don't like to be pessimistic about it, but potentially yes. I like to be very kind of optimistic about what the future generations will have and what they'll accomplish. But we'll see.
Well, look, it happens to all of us. It's a matter of evolution. I mean, it's something inevitable. So now let's go to patient care and clinical philosophy. What is your philosophy in patient care? Because everybody has their own way of doing things.
Make the thing that's going to last the longest and keep the patient the happiest.
Okay, great.
That's very fundamentally how I approach all prosthetics that I make.
So you look for your outcomes.
100%. Prognosis is everything.
Mm-hmm. Good. And that's a good thing because we rush into showing something that's been done yesterday, but we don't
Yes.
get to see in the long run. So then the excellence in dentistry, in your opinion, is how long the treatment will last.
Yes. Right. How long is the treatment successful for? Now, metrics of success will differ. And, things over time deteriorate as much as we like to say, oh, I made this thing that lasted so many years, but that will deteriorate over time as well. So the thing that's going to give my patient the most amount of function and keep him happiest aesthetically the longest. Let's define it as that.
That's it. Okay. So what? That's it. Not tricky question, but it can be cheesy because we're talking about the new generation, right? And we have to stay in it. It's that, and what I loved about you, probably because we've spent so many years together, is looking at the long-term outcome and so on and so forth. But so what separates high-level aesthetic dentistry from an Instagram dentistry? Because, we see that a lot of people come to dentists from Instagram. Yet, a lot of highly skilled people like yourself don't put a lot of pressure or presence on social media, on Instagram and stuff. So what makes the difference? How can a patient find a person like yourself?
By listening to this podcast.
That's a good one.
That's a very good question. And, that's one of my personal flaws where I don't spend, I guess, the extra time needed to make the content to put out there. And it's just not something I've been very interested in. And I don't know why. Maybe it's exposing your work to the world. Maybe it's just having the extra time and energy it's almost another job. If you want to do this properly, you either have somebody who does it or you spend hours and hours a week creating the content, creating the stuff. But one of the major things is I take photos of everything and I do it not to share with people. It's for me to evaluate myself later on. And most of my photos, as perfect as people say them, I always see something that I want to fix. And until I get the perfect shot, I'm less likely to share it.
Yeah. Good.
Despite what other people say about the work, it's just, I always see something I want to improve the next time.
Well, that's what we call it, the dedicated person. And when you put your soul and that's one thing that patients don't appreciate much about the people who are so consumed by the work. It's a small word with small teeth. And once we get too consumed on it, it's very hard to see perfection. Even if the patients are finding it perfect, sometimes we still.
Yeah, I've sent cases back where patient thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
But it came back and they're like, oh, now I see.
Yeah.
So, it happens. I have done that in the past. Most people are very perceptive, very receptive of it. But yeah, it's not just the patient's happiness. I need to be happy at the end of the day as well.
That's what I love about you, Sherman, that I admire. Look, I think you are one of the best skilled person I've ever met in dentistry. And I say it fully, and I don't care if some people are going to be upset that I'm saying it, but I admire your work. But what I love the most about you is your integrity and your commitment to the patients. And that's, I always say that I never make money with you. I lose money.
Wow.
Because you're
Lovely.
joking. I'm joking. But I'm just saying it's because you're a perfectionist. You love what you're doing. You don't look at the patient as a transaction.
It is not a transaction.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
exactly.
I want to treat others the way I want to be treated.
Correct.
So if I'm in that chair and, um, in the patient's position, I would love it if somebody said, "Oh, listen, I can do better," and absolutely, yeah, and I will go that extra mile.
And that's what I wanted people to hear, because that's what I admire the most about you is that you don't cut corners. You don't say, okay, patient is happy, let me move on. No,
Never.
Until you get happy with them, you don't let the case go.
Yeah, it'd be an easier life otherwise. But this is how I
Yeah.
this is how I enjoy it.
So let's talk now about, partnership, mentorship, and growth, because these are important things for young dentists that are starting, and they start looking up at you, that, look, Sherman established, happy. So how does it work? So from your perspective, what makes a successful partnership in dentistry?
A successful partnership, or okay. Well, question I've not really pondered much.
Well, you thought I was going to make it easy for you?
Huh. Well played. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that yet. I'd say this is successful, but it's the criteria for the success of the partnership I've never given much thought to. Now, it takes two to tango. Both must be willing to put up with some stuff. Like you mentioned, you put up with some of the perfectionism and some of the things, and some of the quirks. And, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And so you got to be understanding, first and foremost, of each other, where you're coming from, what your perspective is, and where you're trying to go to. And I think once you have that understanding, you can have that leniency of something that's
doesn't line up the way you want.
right. Then you can give the benefit of the doubt, and make it work.
So now at this stage in your career, what does mentorship means to you?
Well, for a very long time,
for you and for the others,
Mm.
both ways, that you want to mentor, or if you're still look for advices and mentorship.
It's been a shift. I continued to be faculty at NYU till a few years ago. A total of 9 years of teaching, just at NYU. So undergrad, then postgrad and pros, during residency and after residency. And I guess for the most of it, I kind of focused, while I was mentoring, I was also focused on my own mentorship. And as of recently, now that I don't teach, I am more focused on how can I give back, versus who can mentor me in certain stuff. Now, I don't think of it as mentoring in dentistry. You always learn from people, but maybe mentorship in a sense of business, how to run a business of dentistry, is something I might look for, or I am looking for maybe. But as far as actually doing dentistry, I'm more interested in mentoring than mentorship. Not going back to teach anytime soon, but certainly in the future. And that's how I'll probably end my career. Who knows?
Yeah. So if you look at New York City Dental Smile team, when let me say, what differentiate New York Smile team, in your opinion, from all the other practices that we have out there?
I think the biggest thing is that we're an interdisciplinary, interspecialty practice. Your desk is right beside mine. Any case that walks through the door, there's always a collaboration. There's always kind of checking out what's happening. There's always an exchange of information and ideas. And that's something very special. I don't think many practices have that, where they have different specialties all in the same room, let alone in the same umbrella, that they can bounce ideas off each other and sit down and discuss something as a group. I think that's special.
Mm.
And I think
You're right.
that's probably the one thing that sets us apart.
So let's talk a little bit about leadership and culture. So everybody focuses about clinical mastery first, become good clinician. But then you started seeing that leadership and practice culture become important. And when did you start seeing that shift? That you started feeling yet it's not only the being a clinician, but also being a leader and learning how to run a practice, a culture of practice, and so on and so forth.
It's something I'm still figuring out, but and I'll probably be still figuring out. It is how you interact with the people who you work with, your staff, people around you, and having the right people in the right places is just as important as being a good clinician and providing good care. Because I think it starts from the moment the patient calls the office, enters that door, where everyone knows their place, how to interact with the patient, how to care for them, how to be sensitive towards their needs. And it goes all the way to the chair and then back. It's all important, and it's very important that for everybody to be on the same page, have the same philosophy. And when did it become important? I think it was it was very apparent as soon as you enter private practice that it's not just what you do with your hands. It's what your team does as a group that makes the difference for the patient. It's not just what goes in the mouth. It's how the patient feels before and after as well. I think it's just as important. And when did it start? Probably the first day of private practice.
It's good. It's good. So, what kind of a leader do you aspire to be for your team?
The ethical and moral compass of the team. I want the team to think, what would Dr. Farahani do in this position? And then to do the right thing.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm getting to know more of you just by sitting here.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So, what kind of culture and environment we are intentionally building in New York Smile team?
I mean, it's definitely a culture centered on patient care and the patient experience. And it is something that requires all the right people in the right places, and it's constant work, constant work. But I do think we're doing a wonderful job. I shouldn't say but, and I think we're doing a wonderful job.
Good, good. So we're getting close to the last 3 series of questions. Now we're going to shift to technology, aesthetic, and future. I know we spoke a little bit about aesthetic before because it's part of the conversation. Technology is moving fast. We have AI now, digital dentistry, and so on and so forth. And, we've been forthcoming in introducing digital dentistry in our practices. And people forgot, they try to wipe out what happened, but during when pandemic happened, we knew right away that people are going to get away from impressions, analog impressions, and you remember we went immediately into the digital. What excites you about this kind of technology that we are seeing happening, the shift in technologies?
I think the most, and the part that sticks out the most, and I think the part that means the most, is communication with the patient. You, in the past, you couldn't make a PVS impression and then show the patient and say, "Oh, look, see this on
True.
this."
Yeah.
But you can make a digital impression, and you immediately can have a conversation about what you're seeing. You can describe, you can communicate. And I don't think before this, patients really had that window to see in their mouth, to see what we're talking about, more or less live. You make an impression, you take an intraoral scan, you can immediately start showing them what's going on. It's a diagnostic tool. It's a prognostic tool. It's a wonderful thing. It has its limitations, but I think patient communication is the one thing that wasn't really there before it, unless you wanted to take photos and show them. And the other thing is accuracy. Now, it's still a work in progress, but for single units, even for multi-units, we'll get there with multi-units on implants, but for teeth and many implants in a row, it's wonderfully accurate. You still have to do the verification. You have to do the extra steps you would do anyway, but it's wonderfully accurate, and it's easier. It's easier for the patient, and it's easier for the
No,
practitioner.
I love the fact that you said that. You're just basically taking the mouth out and you're showing it to them, which
Right.
this is very impressive for the patient.
Right.
Because X-rays, as much as you try to educate them, is not the
It's
same
not
way.
natural looking at an
Yeah,
X-ray,
yeah.
but you're looking at
At the tooth that they
Right.
see it every day.
Right.
It's impressive. Yes. Uh, we, this question is basically goes back to the same thing we said before: is how can you balance the technology with the fundamentals and the ethical things that we do.
So, when we were building the lab, we went back and forth on why do we need an analog area? Why do we need? Because I still think analog has a place. I don't think analog is obsolete. I think there are many instances, especially in this specialty, where you can't make a good impression doing a digital impression. So you have to go back to analog. And full arch cases, unless you're doing photogrammetry, you still have to do analog because scan bodies is just too much error. What was the question? I'm sorry.
No, it's how can you balance between the fundamentals and the technology? Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably the part that is getting diluted a bit. The more we go into digital dentistry, the more the software does some of the work for you, gets rid of interferences and mounts the case on a digital articulator. You do lose some of that kind of hand-eye learning that you get if you were to do it analog. To mess up doing it analog and then realize, this is where I went wrong. And then you learn a little bit more about the occlusion, about the patient's bite, about the patient's condition. So maybe that is getting a bit diluted as the generations progress. And maybe that's why I said my generation is probably the last one to really do both. There's that fear, but I don't know. The future will tell how this digital age will develop the next generation, but hopefully we won't lose any of that mastery in the process.
So there's the question that, people think that the technology, it can be used for impress people. Talking about, showing them and rotating the whole thing. And we've, spent a lot heavily in integrating a lot of the technologies. We have all the whistles and bells that there is out there. But for a patient that is watching, okay, some of them can be suspicious a little bit or skeptical. Oh, look, they're trying to impress me with these things. In reality, from your perspective, there is a lot of benefit for the patient, right? It's not only a marketing tool, it's communication. We talked
100%.
about that. But what
100%.
else that it's more important for them to know that, look, these people have spent money on or a fortune on putting all these technologies, and it is for my interest as a patient.
Hmm. So the question is, what makes it important to the patient?
Yeah, I mean, it's not only about the technology itself as an impressive, but it is beneficial for the patient. There is a benefit.
It is. Now, I've never, this is a very interesting point because I don't think I've ever thought of it as, oh, let me use this technology to impress. And it has happened where, you make an impression and patients say, oh my God, I've never seen this before. What a wonderful thing. My intention I don't think it's ever been that. And it's an interesting question because I've always thought of it as a tool that I would use to communicate with my patients. It's not a tool I use for every patient. And it's a tool that has its time and place. Now, how to make it important for the patient, I don't know. It's you pick the best technology available to you to provide the best care. And that's all you can do. Whether your patient fully is invested in it or sees it, that's secondary to me, at least.
Yeah, you just answered it. You never thought about it. It's to impress them.
Right. No, it's a
That
tool.
talks about you. This is how you think. You
Yeah,
never
no.
thought about it in this way.
Yeah, no, I've never thought of it
Yeah,
as a tool
but
to impress.
that's what I wanted people to know who you are.
Hmm.
It's it worked.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. No.
So that's again what I care the most about you. So now we are getting towards the end of it. What do you hope that your generation will contribute to dentistry?
Keeping private practice alive.
Privately owned practice.
Privately owned practices. As DSOs and giant corporations continue to eat up the practices throughout the country and everything becomes under the same umbrella, the same story comes up where quality of care gets diluted because the margins and the profits take precedent. They become more important than the person you're treating in the chair. And I think that's the wrong trajectory for the profession, and that's not the right way to approach any sort of healthcare.
So we're doing the right thing, in your opinion.
I think we're doing the right thing for sure.
So when you look 10 to 15 years ahead, how do you hope patients and colleagues will describe you? I know the answer, but I would love to hear it from you.
Yeah. He had talent and he always did the right thing.
Talent he has. And that's true. You want to do the right thing. That's you're very authentic.
Try to be.
Yeah. So if somebody chooses New York City Dental Smile team, what do you think they are looking for the long-term relationship?
If somebody chooses to get care
as a
from
patient
us.
or even to work with it.
Well, I think they're choosing the right trajectory for the profession, first of all. If you're a patient, you're choosing the right level of care. And if you're a team member, then you're in the right place for the right kind of growth in the profession. That's truly what I believe in. Again, I don't think highly of most DSOs, so maybe my opinion is a bit biased, but I do think this is the right way to proceed uh, in this profession.
You know, we get to the closing reflection. I just want to throw something to second what you're saying. When I entered private practice, I entered end of the 90s, where the golden era was there. And I tasted a little bit of it. And then it started changing. By 2008, there's a huge change.
Mhm.
And luckily, with working together, you've tested it, you felt it a little bit. I'm with you. I am afraid it's not being anti-DSO, but I'm afraid for the future of this practice, of not our practice, of our profession.
Profession, yeah.
If we don't do something like we did, it's going to be it. And for the patient care, I mean, these patients been with us for years. With me, particularly 27 years. What kind of handing the baton is going to be? When they all going to retire. So that's the important things, and I'm happy that you've been saying that. I give it a little bit more years, but it's the same thing. Yeah.
No, I agree. I do hope that the quality of care in the profession stays where it is, and that privately owned practices continue to thrive.
Yeah, that's true. It's very important. So that's kind of a advice for the next wave or the new wave of dentists. They look at you. You are an inspiration for them right now. I mean, you don't look at yourself like this, but I have to tell you, from being in dentistry for a little bit longer than you, much longer than you, but that's okay. Who's counting, right?
Who's counting? Who's counting?
Like, I look at the younger now who's going to replace me, my generation. The younger look at you is that you are at the prime. You are in your early 40s. You have your feet down now, and you are going to build upon it. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So what would you tell them not to rush into? That's one.
Well, what specifically not to rush into?
Mhm.
Well, interesting question. This is advice I've given to many new grads over the years. Whoever asked for it, I don't go around forcing it. But don't say no to an opportunity, but don't put all your eggs in one basket immediately. Do diverse kind of work and find your groove is the gist of it. It's very enticing, and right now it's very appealing to immediately come out of whatever program you're into, or just dentistry, and immediately join some sort of DSO because of the financial benefits that they provide. Student loan relief, high income, bonuses, et cetera. But then you have to put all your eggs in that one basket, and you kind of trap yourself in. And I've read some of these contracts. You can really trap yourself, and not get the experience that you need to then thrive after this phase, and you get trapped into this DSO complex. My advice would be, don't immediately trap yourself in a DSO. I know it's appealing. I know the money's good. But unless you're 100% sure, then maybe go out there and experience a diverse environment in which to practice, diverse group to practice with. Not even one office, multiple offices, until you find yourself and the kind of dentistry you want to practice.
You did the same.
I did.
With me,
No,
yeah.
I did. Yeah. 100%.
So what does success in dentistry really mean to you at this stage of your career?
What an interesting question. That's a very interesting question. I don't know. There's always financial comfort that you think of, but I think the question is a little bit deeper. For me, it's more of a career path question of success is being able to do whatever kind of dentistry you want to do and do it with excellence. I think that's what more can you
And
ask for?
ethically.
And ethically, of course, you want to be able to sleep at night, but
Yeah.
be able to practice the kind of dentistry you want, and yeah.
So, what keeps you excited about coming to work every day?
All the jokes that we tell each other, all the way we mess with each other. I mean, a lot of it is patient interaction. I mean, obviously, I love what I do. It's not easy. Process is not easy. It does challenge you both physically and mentally. But at the end of the day, it's the patience. It's that smile at the end of the treatment that you get. It's that sense of accomplishment that both you and your patient share at the end of a treatment. And that's really it.
That's the reward, yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, Sherman, if you had to describe New York City Dental Smile team in one sentence,
Oof.
what would it be?
Where excellence happens.
There you go.
All right.
Sherman, thank you for trusting me all of these years. And I hope you enjoyed it the same way I enjoyed getting to learn about him more than I know about him. I thought I know. When I started saying he's a rising star, I mean it. And I am somebody who doesn't give compliments like this. I love to tease. So I love to joke, but you are a rising star. I am very honored that we did that journey together. And I hope that a lot of people will discover what I have seen in the last 12 years.
Thank you, Dr. El Chaar.
Thank you, Sherman.